et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous quotidien pour la presse en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 29 juin. J'aimerais commencer nos annonces d'aujourd'hui avec l'agenda de la réunion du collège de demain et les événements de presse que nous organisons pour vous. Demain donc, le collège discutera d'un paquet sur les droits des consommateurs, comprenant une proposition de directive sur le crédit aux consommateurs et une proposition de règlement sur la sécurité des produits. Ce point fera l'objet du compte-rendu du collège de demain et vous sera présenté par la vice-présidente Vera Jourova et le commissaire Didier Reynders. Le collège devrait adopter également une communication relative à l'initiative citoyenne End the Cage Age, qui vous sera présentée par la vice-présidente Jourova et la commissaire Kyriakides après le compte-rendu du collège. Le collège discutera aussi de l'enregistrement de 2 autres initiatives citoyennes relatives aux tests cosmétiques sur les animaux d'une part et à un éco-score européen de l'autre. Ensuite, les commissaires discuteront d'une vision à long terme pour les zones rurales de l'Union européenne. Ce point sera présenté demain en salle de presse par la vice-présidente Dubravka Šuica et les commissaires Janusz Wojciechowski et Elisa Ferreira. Enfin, nous aurons une dernière conférence de presse demain à 16h30 avec le vice-président Maroš Šefčovič sur les relations entre l'Union européenne et le Royaume-Uni. Comme vous le voyez, un agenda très dense. Pour continuer nos annonces, j'appelle maintenant Adalbert pour une bonne nouvelle en ce qui concerne le pacte sur la migration et l'asile. Adalbert.
Merci, Eric. A few minutes ago, the European Parliament and the Council reached an agreement to transform the European Asylum Support Office into a European Union agency for asylum. The new agency is a key initiative under the new Pact on Migration and Asylum, and it will help make asylum procedures in the member states of higher quality, more uniform and faster. The agency will have a reserve of 500 experts ready to be deployed as part of asylum support teams at the request of member states. The agency will also have an enhanced role when it comes to monitoring and reporting on member states' asylum and reception systems, making sure that standards and practices are consistent throughout Europe and fully in line with EU law. Finally, the agency will play an important role in capacity building in non-EU countries. Today's agreement is the second legislative agreement on the new pact proposals, following agreement on the Blue Card Directive in May. A number of operational aspects of the new pact are also already being implemented, for example, on the external dimension of migration policy, returns, and the deployment of European Border and Coast Guard standing call. Negotiations on the remaining legislative proposals continue in the European Parliament and the Council. The Commission warmly welcomes this agreement, which signals a pragmatic, step-by-step approach towards achieving a more efficient and sustainable EU migration management system. You will find more information in the press release we are about to publish.
Thank you very much, Adalbert. Let's remember that we have interpreters who need to interpret everything that we are saying, so let's not speed up too much when we are making our announcements. I now call Christian, who has news on our contribution to make traveling easier during this summer.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Yesterday, Commissioners Reynders, Breton and Kyriakides sent a letter to the 27 EU member states calling for a timely and consistent implementation of the updated recommendation on the coordination of free movement restrictions in the EU and on the EU digital COVID certificate. The Commission strongly encourages member states to implement the recommendation as soon as possible. In particular, they should ensure the travel exemptions for fully vaccinated and recovered persons, to ensure family unity, and apply the updated color coding of the ECDC map. This should be best done before the 1st of July to ensure that measures are in line with the EU digital COVID certificate. We, of course, must also remain vigilant of the Delta variant, and also for that, coordination is essential. The Commission also encourages Member States to swiftly progress with the technical rollout until the 1st of July. Also, to avoid disruptions, national authorities should remain in close contact with the different actors in the travel sector. Finally, we need to give citizens the confidence to travel abroad this summer. For that, they need clear and timely information. Therefore, the Commissioners call on the Ministers to provide regular updates to the Reopen EU platform, which will be an obligation under the new regulation. We will continue to work closely with Member States to ensure all of us can find some well-deserved rest in these summer months. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Thank you very much, Christian. Now let's continue with Stéphane for an announcement on treatments against the coronavirus.
Thank you very much, Eric. Good morning, everybody. Today, the EU strategy on COVID-19 therapeutics is delivering its first outcome. I'm indeed happy to announce the first portfolio of 5 therapeutics that could soon be available to treat patients across the EU. 4 of these therapeutics are monoclonal antibodies, which are currently under rolling review with the European Medicines Agency. The 5th one is a immunosuppressant, which already has a marketing authorization, but this marketing authorization could be extended to also include the treatment of COVID-19 patients. By October, the Commission will drop a portfolio of at least 10 potential COVID-19 therapeutics, building on the work of the newly established expert group on COVID-19 variants. And of course, the selection will be objective and totally science-based. More info will be available on your trusted friend, the Daily News, where you will find a press release and questions and answers. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Stéphane. Je vous rappelle maintenant que nous aurons à 13h30 le vice-président Margaritis Schinas et la commissaire Maria Gabriel pour une conférence de presse sur la reprise en sécurité des activités culturelles en Europe. Et à 16h, nous organisons un briefing technique off the record sur la réforme de la politique agricole commune. Enfin, permettez-moi quelques mots sur notre salle de presse. C'est aujourd'hui, si nos calculs sont bons, notre 213e briefing quotidien de midi entièrement en ligne. Nous avons organisé 167 conférences de presse, 126 briefings techniques et 33 événements VIP depuis le début du confinement en mars de l'année dernière, entièrement en ligne. Et comme vous le savez, notre transition vers une salle de presse virtuelle avait été très rapide et je crois, dans l'ensemble, finalement, assez efficace. Et pour cela, je tiens à remercier toute l'équipe, mais bien entendu, en particulier Jonathan Hack, qui a été l'homme responsable de la gestion de la plupart de ces événements de presse. Vous le connaissez bien, vous êtes en dialogue permanent avec lui par le chat dès que vous avez un souci technique, et c'est lui qui me dit quand votre source de micro n'est pas la bonne et que je dois dire « change your mic source ». Voilà, donc merci à tous pour le travail acharné. Et maintenant nous allons entrer dans une nouvelle phase. So I'm happy to confirm that on Thursday, 1st of July, we will be welcoming you back in person here in the press room. The number of seats will be limited to 69 to ensure physical distancing and respect of all sanitary measures. Starting Thursday, we will therefore employ a hybrid system, which means that we will take questions from journalists who are in the room and from those who continue to take part to the midday briefing through our Interactio system. For press conferences by the President or commissioners, when we expect a greater number of journalists to come, the SPP will apply a system of pre-registration, which will work on a first-come, first-served basis. On the other hand, for normal midday briefings, no prior registration will be necessary, but we will only let 69 journalists into the room. You have received, in fact, detailed information regarding the reopening and the related procedures, and you can find them, I hope it's here, yes, you can find them also online on the SPP website and at the end of our daily news. Of course, we're all looking forward very much to this. I will not be present personally on that day since it is the college visit to the Slovenian presidency, so Dana will have the pleasure of welcoming you in the press room once again. Je voudrais néanmoins souligner qu'il est extrêmement important que nous restions vigilants. La propagation rapide des variants suscite toujours évidemment des inquiétudes. Et donc, en entrant dans la salle de presse, nous vous demanderons de respecter toutes les mesures sanitaires nécessaires. Par exemple, il y a une seule porte d'accès pour entrer, qui est la porte d'accès qui est au fond de la salle. Les portes qui sont ici sur les côtés du podium ne seront pas ouvertes aux médias. Ceci afin que vous puissiez scanner votre badge et que nous puissions donc compter de manière précise le nombre de journalistes qui sont dans la salle. Voilà, mais à part ces quelques contraintes qui sont, je crois, dans notre intérêt commun, nous pensons que ce système peut fonctionner de manière efficace et vous permettre de choisir, en fonction de vos préférences, une présence physique ou une présence en ligne. Voilà qui nous amène à la fin de nos annonces pour aujourd'hui et nous allons donc passer à vos questions. Je passe la parole immédiatement à Mose.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I have a question about the legislative issue, which is related, I think, to climate change and European Green Deal. As you may know, last week an international expert panel came up with a definition of the recognition of ecocide, a crime against the environment, against the planet, to be amended as part of the statutes of the International Criminal Court. And I also know that, let's say, a coalition of members of the European Parliament are supporting this, and I come together to try to push for this in the Parliament. I don't know if the Commission has any position on this issue, but I would very much like to know what you think about it, and if it's something which the Commission might consider to legislate about. Thank you.
Legislation about ecocide. Vivian.
Good afternoon. Dear Mose, thanks a lot for this question. Well, as you know, for the Commission, this fight against climate change and global warming is of the utmost priority. And with this in mind, we have put in place the European Green Deal that, in order to make sure that Europe reaches climate neutrality by 2050. We have now this enshrined in EU laws already, with a climate act that has been passed now, all the legislative steps through the European Parliament and the Council, and is now a legal obligation for the member states to make sure that we will get to this climate neutrality by 2050, as well as have the new ambition of reaching to much more higher cuts in our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. And with that, we will come forward with a big legislative package on the 14th of July, which shows exactly how we're going to get there, how we will achieve in cutting our greenhouse gas emissions by more than, well, by at least 55% compared to the 1990 levels. So we're taking all these steps within the European Union. Obviously, it's also a lot of work that we're doing with our international partners. We are preparing for the events at the United Nations level, both for the Conference of Parties on climate change in November, as well as to the equally important one on biodiversity in October. And our aim there is also to work on reaching a global consensus to act on these matters when it comes to both climate change as well as to biodiversity. So these are the steps that we are taking already, very briefly. When it comes to the issue that you raised that has been discussed last week, or that has come also to our knowledge last week, then certainly this is something which is an idea which is it's being discussed in many fora, including the European Parliament, and we'll see what the next steps will be on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Are there other questions for Vivian on climate or environmental related issues? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on this. Fabio, you have a question on climate change or environmental protection?
Oh, yes, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So my question is on a single-use plastic directive. Just to know what's the state of play of the work on implementing acts on calculation methodology. Do you think that it will be approved before the 3rd of July? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Fabio. Indeed, the Single-Use Plastic Directive will now enter fully into force, or the transposition deadline for the Member States is this 3rd of July, so this coming Saturday. What it means is that Member States have had to put in place by the 3rd of July the rules nationally to implement the directive. The directive, as you might remember, was one of the key deliverables in the Green Portfolio for the last mandate. And what it says is that we looked and analyzed what are the most present single-use plastic items in the oceans, and we decided to ban those. So there are almost, I think, 10 items, including single-use cutlery, different versions of single-use plastic, which will now be banned to be brought into the European market as of this Saturday. And this with this step, what we're trying to do is minimize as much as possible the proliferation of single-use plastic in the global oceans. Now, when it comes to these items that will be banned from this Saturday, these are all items for which there are affordable and available alternatives, non-plastic, that are there. We are now discussing this with the Member States. We are following up also where they are with these transpositions. So I'm sure next week I'll be able to give you a more clearer answer on that. What I'd refer you now to is the website on Eurolex. You have a database which shows where Member States have registered their laws of transposition, and you will see there what the state of play is, that as far as they are on implementing these rules. But indeed, thanks for bringing this to the attention, it's the 3rd of July, which is the big date for banning the further single-use plastic in the European Union.
Thank you very much, Viviane. I see no further questions on this issue, no further hand raised, so I go back to Raf, who was the second person to have raised his hand. Raf, you have the floor.
Yes, hello everyone. I have a question about what Vice President Shinas said about the Euro Championships yesterday, where he warned them against the virus, the new variant, and against holding the semis and finals at Wembley before a large audience. Can I take it, is this now the Commission officially asking UEFA to reconsider this and not hold it before a big public? Or could you please explain to me exactly what the Commission wants? And also one word of apology. I've been away for a month, so I hope you haven't had to deal with this issue ad nauseum for the past 2 weeks.
Thank you. This is a health-related question, so I pass the floor to Stefan.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I can add a lot to what has been said. I think what is very important to take into account is that we are in a situation where we have a virus and where a variant is out there. We have to be extremely careful with this variant, with the transmission of this variant, and it's very important in this context that we bear in mind the different guidance, for instance, that is out there coming from the ECDC, for instance, with regard to the organization of events, putting people together. And so I think it is very important that member states, who are in the end obviously responsible for the organization of such events, bear in mind these very important recommendations and follow the caution that is called for by the Vice President and, for instance, by the ECDC. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have other health-related questions for Stefan today? Please only keep your hand raised if it's on this health-related issues.
Uh,
Gillian.
Thanks so much. I have a question on the therapy announcement. In the May strategy document for the Commission's plans to purchase therapies, the Commission wrote that they were in talks to purchase 3 COVID-19 medicines that were awaiting marketing authorization. I was wondering if you could give us a kind of state of play of where those purchasing conversations are, and when we will have some kind of update on whether the EU is purchasing any of these medicines. Thank you.
Thank you, Gillian. Stefan.
Thank you very much, Gillian. Maybe I could refer you to our very good questions and answers which have been published on the Daily News, where you will see an overview of what we're doing in the area of joint procurement. You know that on the 8th of October 2020, we signed a joint procurement framework contract with Gilead for the supply of 500,000 treatment courses of remdesivir. We also know that it's explained in our Q&A that since last October, the Commission signed over 70 joint procurement contracts for 19 medicines, including analgesics, antibiotics, muscle relaxers, anesthetics, resuscitation, including dexamethasone to treat more severe COVID-19 cases in intensive care units. Of course, the joint procurement is a mechanism that is at the disposal of the Commission and the Member States, and we can always further build or conclude further new framework contracts in the context of such joint procurement to purchase or to reserve rather the purchase of therapeutics and other medicines that Member States may feel to be useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Tommaso, you have a question on health-related issues.
Yes, hi, thank you for the floor. Well, just to come back to the question which was asked before, I didn't really understand. Are you in touch with UEFA? Yesterday, Vice President Skinas addressed the issue in the Parliament of this final and semi-finals that will be played in Wembley. I think you are aware of the epidemiological situation, and I don't have to remind it here. So did you get in touch with the president of UEFA? And if yes, did he assure you that the situation we will properly address? Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan.
Hi, thank you. I'm afraid I'm not in a position to add much more to what I've said before. I think that the Commission has made and the Vice President has made his position clear, which is that it's very important to be very careful given the spread of the variants and the fact that we're still in this fight against the vaccine. And I'm afraid at this stage I will have to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other questions on health-related issues? Please only keep your hand raised if it is on health. Khalid, do you have a question on health?
No, not on health. I have a question on another subject.
Yes, then please unraise your hand, thank you, to help me manage the press conference. We'll come back to you at a later stage. Anne-Laure. Alors, la source micro n'est pas la bonne, me dit Jonathan. Alors, peux-tu changer pardon, ta source micro? Ça ne semble pas être facile, donc nous allons passer à d'autres sujets. Je donne la parole à Igor, qui avait levé sa main dès le début. Igor, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Igor Juric, Slovenian television. Thanks for the floor. I have just a short question regarding a letter written by 6 MEPs and addressed to President von der Leyen and Charles Michel. They are accusing Slovenian Prime Minister of obstructing the work of the European Public Prosecutor's Office and interference in the nomination process of the delegated prosecutors. and they are demanding to suspend EU payments to Slovenia, to insist on the proposed candidates to be appointed, and demand that Slovenia appoints its delegated prosecutors immediately. My question is, can you confirm that you received this letter, and what is your comment?
Thank you.
Thanks.
I personally cannot confirm that we have received the letter. Christian, do you have any information on this?
No, I'm afraid I can also not confirm anything on this letter as such. Of course, receiving a lot of letters, but let us check if this has been received. I can maybe clarify or say something on a different letter in relation to that, and tell you that the Commission, of course, remains in contact with Slovenia on the matter of the nomination of the delegated prosecutors for the European Public Prosecutor's Office, and Commissioner Reinders actually wrote a letter to the Slovenian Justice Minister on this, to the new Slovenian Justice Minister on this last week, reminding again that this is a matter of the utmost urgency. So we are continuing to be in touch and to making very clear to the Slovenian government that it is important to solve and address this issue very soon.
Thank you, Christian. So, are there other questions for Christian on rule of law issues? That is not the case, so we go to Khalid.
I would like to ask UN alarmed at the detention and torture of children and Indian administrative Kashmir, and particularly Secretary General Antonio Guterres request India to prevent this kind of atrocities in Kashmir. So what is the view of European Union on this report?
Thank you. A question for Nabila, but we will see whether we are informed of this report or if we can come back to you, but please.
Thanks, Khalid, and I'm sorry, I'm not aware of this report, so I'm afraid I will get back to you on this report specifically.
Okay, are there other questions for Nabila on external relations, on foreign affairs issues? That is not the case. Any other issue for us today? Fabio.
Yes, hi again. I have a question on COVID certificate. Just to know if the COVID certificates made in Western Balkan will be recognized in the EU. If not, why and what the Commission is doing to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Christian.
Thank you, Fabio, for the question. What I can say at this stage is that I think I said before that we have, of course, requests from many parts of the world for possibility of this recognition of possible adequacy decisions. We will have to see for which countries this will be possible. But what I can say is that also from the Western Balkans countries, we have been approached on this matter. On a more general level, you know that there is the option under the EU Digital COVID Certificate for people from third countries, which includes, of course, the Western Balkans, to obtain a certificate if they can provide sufficient proof of a relevant vaccination under the certificate regulation to a member state they are traveling to. So this is already possible now, and whether there will be further negotiations on possible adequacy decisions remains open at this stage, but there have been contacts.
Thank you, Christian. Are there other questions on the digital certificate for Christian today? Et donc, nous passons à un autre Christian Spielmann.
Oui, tu m'entends?
Bonjour Christian, je t'entends.
Bonjour, bonjour. En fait, je vais poser la question que voulait vous poser Anne-Laure, mais qui a été plantée par son micro. En fait, c'est une protestation de l'Union africaine qui déplore que dans le cadre de l'instauration du pass sanitaire, l'Union européenne ne reconnaisse pas la version du vaccin AstraZeneca fabriqué en Inde, qui est le Covishield. Et donc, ce vaccin est reconnu par l'OMS et ça leur pose un sérieux problème. Donc, je voudrais savoir qu'est-ce que vous pouvez faire pour eux, parce qu'en fait, ça veut dire que tous les Africains qui s'en remettent pour la vaccination à COVAX, et COVAX leur fournit le Covishield. Donc là, on a une impasse. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous avez comme réponse? Merci.
Merci, c'est une question que nous avons déjà eue, pas exactement sous cette forme-là, mais de manière similaire, en tout cas sur le même thème hier. Je passe la parole à Adalbert.
Merci beaucoup Christian. Ce que j'ai pu dire à ce sujet hier est simplement rappeler pour l'instant les règles qui sont contenues dans la recommandation du Conseil concernant la restriction des déplacements, qui sont que les États membres devraient autoriser l'entrée dans l'Union européenne pour des raisons non essentielles à des personnes qui sont vaccinées avec les vaccins qui ont reçu l'autorisation de l'Union européenne, donc l'autorisation de l'EMA, et les États membres pourraient étendre cette possibilité aux personnes qui ont été pleinement vaccinées avec les vaccins qui sont sur la liste de l'OMS. Après, sur la question spécifique de Covishield avec les
C'est rare.
C'est une question que nous pourrons sans doute
Adalbert, je crois qu'il faut que tu reprennes un tout petit peu. Nous t'avons perdu là quelques secondes.
Ah oui, pardon. Donc, pour reprendre, en ce qui concerne la question spécifique du vaccin Covishield, avec les subtilités que tu as évoquées, c'est une question que nous sommes encore en train de regarder avec les collègues plus en détail, et nous pourrons revenir vers toi et les autres journalistes qui ont posé cette question rapidement.
Merci. David, tu as une question sur le certificat.
Oui, en quelque sorte, c'est sur la décision de l'Allemagne de ne pas faire rentrer des personnes à partir du Portugal. Je voulais savoir si vous avez un update par rapport à hier, vu qu'il y a eu une discussion sur cette décision d'activer le frein d'urgence. Et si la Commission pense que c'est une décision proportionnée. On sait qu'existe cette possibilité selon la recommandation et aussi le règlement sur le certificat, mais est-ce que c'est une décision proportionnée? Parce que si je regarde la carte de l'ECDC, il y a des régions rouges et le Portugal n'est pas une région rouge. Et la situation des variantes est très différente par rapport d'un pays à l'autre, c'est-à-dire qu'on ne regarde pas vraiment partout s'il y a des variantes Delta.
Merci David. Je crois que la première réponse à ta question, c'est de faire un rappel de ce que Christian a dit au début du Midday, lorsqu'il a évoqué la lettre qui a été envoyée par les commissaires aux États membres, justement pour les appeler à une mise en œuvre complète et cohérente des recommandations qui ont été prises sur ces sujets et sur la liberté de mouvement des personnes détenant le certificat. Mais je passe la parole à Christian pour une mise à jour.
Oui, exactement. Merci. L'Allemagne a informé la Commission que l'Allemagne considère le Portugal dès le 29 juin comme un virus variant area. Ils ont indiqué à la Commission que ça est à être interprété comme être un emergency break. C'est pour ça que la Commission va demander aux présidences du Conseil de discuter cette affaire entre les États membres, comme c'est prévu dans notre recommandation concernant la coordination des restrictions de voyage dans l'UE. Comme nous avons, comme Eric a dit, et c'est mentionné dans cette lettre des 3 commissaires, c'est important de rester vigilante à cause de la nouveau variant Delta. Et je continue un peu en anglais, si tu me permets. While we must stand ready to reintroduce public health measures if needed, including by making use of the emergency brake, coordination remains essential. It is important that any triggering of the emergency brake is communicated to the Commission and to other Member States as soon as possible. Member States should also follow the approach agreed in the recommendation, taking strict measures like quarantine, but avoiding travel bans. The German measures do not seem fully aligned with it. Et alors, comme je dis avant, c'est pour ça que la Commission a demandé à la présidence de discuter cette affaire entre les États membres comme prévu dans la recommandation. Merci.
David, je vois que tu as encore ta main levée. Tu as une question de suivi?
Yes, thank you. Why the German measures are not fully aligned? Thank you.
Well, look, take a look at the recommendation, which is quite clear what the measures could be under an emergency brake. Namely, if I remember well, quarantine and testing, which is what we have in the recommendation. And as I mentioned, and as we have, I think, consistently held, avoiding travel bans. But again, this is a matter that is now, and I would also, of course, invite you to check with the Council on the discussion that was held yesterday and on possible future follow-up, as this is foreseen in the recommendation that if a member state wants to make use of the emergency brake, then this should be coordinated and discussed in a structured way at member state level.
Thank you. I see no further questions on this issue. Are there other issues for us today? Catherine.
Hello. Hello, Eric. I just wanted to ask, in relation to tomorrow's announcement by Mamer Šefčovič, I mean, it's widely anticipated that extension will be granted to some of the arrangements for chilled meat, for example. But I noticed that today British parliamentarians have written to the Prime Minister asking for an extension to the deadline of the EU settlement scheme. They're very concerned that that many people will not be able to sign up on time, and their status will not be secured, and that this could have very far-reaching consequences. And in particular, there's concern that children and more vulnerable groups will be particularly damaged by this. And so I was just wondering, in exchange for the extensions that are being granted to the UK to meet its obligations under the withdrawal agreement and TCA, will the EU also be pressing for EU citizens to receive an extension to their right to apply for settled status? It seems like that would be a fair exchange. And in the withdrawal agreement negotiations, the rights of EU citizens living in the UK was a top concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I think that you are piling up the hypotheses here, and as you know, that is something that we are not comfortable with in terms of answering, in particular when it comes to the decisions which you say the Commission is going to take. So I'm afraid we will certainly not go into details on this, but I will give the floor to Dan to see if he has any other comment to make.
Yeah, thanks very much, Eric, and hi, Catherine. Thanks for your question. Eric summed it up very, very well. On the first leg of your question, Catherine, on the Vice President Šefčovič's press conference tomorrow, I think you would have seen some of the statements that he has made over the past couple of days. With regards to the implementation of the protocol, we are open to finding solutions. We're working really, really hard on that, and we're in contact with member states, the European Parliament, and of course the UK on this. At this exact moment in time, I cannot provide more details than that. Secondly, on citizens' rights, you're right in saying that the deadline for applying for settled status is the end of the month, tomorrow. We've been working extremely hard to raise awareness, to make sure that people in the UK and right across the European Union are aware of this deadline. We have been providing support. We've been providing help insofar as possible. With regards to the letter that you mentioned, I am not aware of that, and I cannot comment on it, obviously, but I'll just say just that we are working as hard as we can to spread the message about this deadline.
And let this midday briefing also serve as a message to EU citizens in the UK and UK citizens in Europe on their need to follow these issues very, very carefully and to sign up as quickly as possible. Catherine, you have a follow-up.
I mean, we see that the parliamentarians are very concerned because they have received reports that these very, very vulnerable groups, children leaving care, are particularly a question. And would it not be appropriate for the EU to try and intervene to extend that deadline or to plead for the mitigating circumstances for these individuals?
Catherine, thank you very much for your question again, but we will not be commenting on quid pro quos that need to be made. There is indeed, as you said, a press conference tomorrow by Vice President Šefčovič, and I would ask you to address your questions to him during that press conference tomorrow. Are there other questions for us today? That is not the case. Let me thank you, therefore, for your participation, and I will see you tomorrow for the college readout. Bon après-midi.